Hello, welcome to my classroom. My name is Mr. Herman. Before you do anything else, please hit like and subscribe. I don't know why all the other YouTube people say that. There's probably something in it. We're gonna monetize this. Anyway, post-war mood. What war? The Great War. And with any luck, the title will remain The Great War. We don't want it to be World War I because that means there's a World War II. Everyone's excited. We're finally done sending people to their deaths. We have a reason to celebrate again. But it might just be that this war has changed the world so much that can we get back to the way things were? Can we return to a time where we can ignore the possibility of war? It's important right now. We're wondering, in our quarantined homes, can we return to a time like it was before? Is it even possible? What was it like before? Let's talk a little bit about the expectations that Western culture had about itself. What is Western culture? What does it mean to be part of the West? Well, there's a lot of words here. That is bad PowerPoint slide design. We'll deal with it. The West is about industrialism. In the 19th century, we saw the rise of industrialism, which helped us conquer the world. Nationalism, pride, the breaking down of empires, but the building up of strong new identities. Think Bismarck. Think Italy. Europeans, who, by the way, had started chattel slavery, ended slavery without a war, unlike some countries. Disease. Disease is no match for science. We can fix that. What should be done with Africa? Well, Europe will figure it out. What should be done with the Middle East or Asia? Europe will figure it out. Europe is clearly in control of their destiny. They have invented diplomacy, civilized behavior. They are clearly the most advanced civilization. That was the perception they had of themselves. Advancement, prestige, the culture, the civilization, all of this that they had cast them into war. World War I happens, and all that bloated ego was forced to stare down death and destruction at their own hands. That was a lot to take. And as a result of World War I, Western culture is forced to re-examine itself with the question, are we great? In the before time, if you had asked the West, what is science? It cures diseases. It gives us order, progress, and power. We control it. It is the mark of an advanced civilization. The absolute laws of nature are ours to command. Einstein says, hold on 1 minute. You think you know everything? That there are these great absolutes? I've got a surprise for you. You know, time, that thing that defines humanity, it's relative. Sometimes it goes at different speeds. Bet you didn't see that coming. Okay, then what is man? And this is the 19th century, so they would not have been using gender-inclusive terminology. Well, a man is a master of his own destiny. The individual, the great enlightened thinker, full of wit. We are in control of reason. Our wisdom makes us great. And then Sigmund Freud says, just 1 second of your time, please. What if I told you that you were not in control? It is in fact your subconscious that you can't control that makes you do things. A lot of what Freud postulated has been proven more or less inaccurate, but he is the jumping off point that we have toward really thinking about what makes a person the way they are. Okay, if that's uncertain, what are correct values? Surely it's strength, nobility, chivalry, honor. Our values, they are what make us great. Well, there's a few ideas about values. The war caused people's perception of everything to fundamentally change. Everything was cast into question because if these rules and values and norms and the things that made European society great caused the war, then what is any of this? Was there truth? Was there validity to any of that? So we see some divergence of thought. Maybe there are no values. We're not in control. We're just in this crazy, chaotic mess where everyone dies. Or perhaps our old values didn't work. Then we must have new values. Individual values for the men, individual values for the women, for the child, for the dog, but not the cat. We create meaning through reality and actions. And these realities, they're all connected. And our actions and values impact other people. And so everything is brand new. This idea of Sartre's is existentialism. And that's going to have a big impact going forward. So we have Kafka, we have Sartre, we have Nietzsche, don't forget him. His idea is we turned away from our values. Long ago, they were good values, and we must return to these values. We must return to valor, strength. Then we will be great again. His ideas are going to be picked up by some bad gentlemen a little bit later on with the label fascism. What is art? Art is what we deem it to be. Art is the depiction and/or impression. Thanks a lot, Jean-Claude Monet. I think it's just Claude Monet. It's Jean-Claude Van Damme and just Claude Monet, I think. Which one was in Bloodsport? I think that was Claude. So, art and the value of art is what we say it is. It's our truth. We'll know it when we see it. After all, those are the rules, and art needs to follow rules. Otherwise, anyone could be an artist, and we'd like to restrict access to the upper echelon of art because we're the echelon. And then we have people like Salvador Dali come along and say, I think I could do art a little differently. We have Picasso come along and say, you know how usually people have their eyes on their head in a certain way? Well, what if they don't? Dali. I mean, he decided one day, I'm going to draw these little things up here. It looks like a slingshot, maybe. There you go. Art. It means something. I don't know enough about art to know what it means, but it's a little tree slingshot, and then this is a person made out of like a mountain texture. What is art anyway? What about music? Music is an extension of our sophistication. Think Industrial Revolution. New techniques were developed that allowed better and better instruments. More people, there was a middle class and more people had access to instruments at a cheaper price. And so everyone learned how to play instruments. It was an extension of this new middle class, this vibrant Western culture, that everyone could play instruments and could follow the rules as written on the page and create music. And then jazz had something to say about that. We can bend the rules a little bit. It doesn't have to sound exactly like you thought it did. What I used to like to do before this whole quarantine, when I had students in my classroom, we would sit down and I would play Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, and I'd have my students who were musicians try to tell me the time signature. So if you're a musician, Google Stravinsky Rite of Spring, R-I-T-E, and listen and try to tell me what the time signature is in the comments. And of course it's a trick question, but see if you can figure out what the time signature is, what the key is if you're super advanced and have that perfect pitch. The point, though, is we start to see change happening. And this change, the Rite of Spring, came out before even World War I. So the cracks that are forming in society are not solely the responsibility and the result of World War I. These things were happening even before World War I began. So what's one last thing we can look at? What's one last change in society? We could say, well, what is a citizen? But of course, it is a property-owning male, usually white. But we have some things to say even about that. Why can't a citizen be female? And we see women start to say, we deserve to be at equal status in terms of citizenship. I mean, some things wouldn't even change for women until, I want to say 70s or 80s. To get credit, a woman would have to get her husband's signature in order to get a credit card. And this happens, 70s or 80s. So things are still to this day changing. So anyway, World War I puts everyone in touch with the question, what are human limits? We know what the rules used to be, what we thought they were. What are they now? Should we celebrate? We have no rules. Nothing is real. Do what you want. But in the same breath, you can say the same exact words. We have no rules. Nothing is real. There are no rules. And it becomes a time of equal anxiety to the celebration we might have felt. And so what I want to leave you with in all of this uncertainty post-World War I is the question, is all this uncertainty that Western culture is starting to feel, is it because Western culture somehow turned away from the principles that had made them great? Or perhaps was it that Western culture wasn't great to begin with? It was fortunate, and it had a good run of industrialism, and that catapulted Europe to the forefront of the world stage. But perhaps that was a moment in history and not the whole of history. Anyway, we're going to see how the answers to these questions are going to lead into the 20s and 30s, into depression and fascism. Stay tuned. Take care.